Greetings, viewers. You join me amid some tinkering. I've just finished soldering up this 5-pin DIN connector on a bit of cable here, which is wired up as a MIDI connector. And I've got it all set up to this little nano here based on a schematic that I found online. And I am going to try and get this guy to do a little bit of MIDI controlling. Not creating notes, but controlling of parameters on this guitar pod. You may remember it from a video a couple months ago when I picked it up at a thrift store. I'll put a link to that up there. Anyway, it is a 5-pin connector, but there's only 3 pins that are actually in use. And I have got, well, down here, I've got the transmit pin connected to, what is that? To the UART transmit, and the receive pin I've just got pulled high, just because I'm not using it, because it doesn't need it. I'll just put the connector back together and yeah, get some software going and see what I can do with this. You may also notice that I've got a single potentiometer connected there, and for the experiments that I am intending, for now anyway, that's all I need. In the future I may add more to it, but I guess I should. What I'm hoping to do with this is basically control one of the functions on that pod, one of the adjustments, with a foot pedal, which will drive the potentiometer through its range and send a range of command values out to the pod. Why does that look goofy? That didn't go together properly. Talking and not thinking while I'm doing things here. Okay, so that will just plug into the MIDI input on the pod. And yeah, I will hook up the Arduino Nano to the computer and throw some quick software in it. And here is that software that I've come up with. This is, again, just stripped straight out of a demo, the demo that comes with the MIDI library. I have stripped out anything that I don't need because I just want a single expression pedal, which is being controlled by the analog input A0 of my Arduino there. Almost everything in here is pretty much straight out of the demo, including variable names and stuff. So it's setting up 3 different variables. I have gone into the manual for the pod and pulled out the interesting looking variables. What I'm hoping to use it for is a wah pedal, like I think I mentioned. But I'm going to start off just with the generic pedal, which is control number 1, and I think that will be wah in most cases, although I can just force it to be. We'll see. I set up a channel. MIDI can have up to 16 different channels happening on the same wire. I'm just using channel 1, and it doesn't really matter. You just have to have your device at both ends of the communication path set to use the same one. The MIDI begin using the library. Pin mode, yeah, standard Arduino stuff. So then in the loop, we read the pedal, we scale it, because the maximum value you can have for a MIDI value is 127. And then it uses the Arduino constrain command, which I'm not all that familiar with, but apparently it just keeps the variable value within a certain set range. So in this case, it will make sure that the range is between 0 and 127, which it should be anyway because of the mapping, but I don't know. I am no expert in this software stuff, and this, like I said, is just straight out of the menu, the demo. And this bit, as far as I can tell, just decides if your value is 126, it forces it to be 127. I'm not sure quite why it's doing that, but apparently whoever wrote that demo thought it was a good idea. And then it checks to see if the previous value is different from the new value, and if it is, then it makes them equal. And then it sends this MIDI send control change. That's the one that took me the longest to look up, because almost all of the Arduino MIDI stuff that I was able to find was talking about making notes or receiving notes, not doing control changes. So this was a little bit of exploration for me, actually quite a bit. So it sends three parameters. It sends the CC, which is the control code or the control number, which we got set up there. It sends the value, which comes out of this little bit here, and then it sends the channel, which is channel 1. You can send a whole bunch to a whole bunch of different channels simultaneously. You can send a bunch of different values and stuff at the same time. MIDI is fairly quick, and it's designed to happen in real time. And then there's just a little delay because there was in the demo, and it goes back through it again. So this is, if you wanted to do notes, which is not what I'm doing, but if you wanted to, here's a demo sketch for that. And there's a lot more of those around. Basically all the setup stuff, MIDI begin. I've stripped out some of the stuff from the demo just to make it even simpler. You send a note on, it's note number 42. You send velocity, or how hard you're hitting the piano key, or how hard you're strumming the guitar string. In this case, 127 or maximum on channel 1. Wait a second, note off. Again, same note number 42. The velocity that you are stopping the note, in this case 0. I don't know. Again, I'm not playing with this for that purpose. And then channel 1, and then it just loops. So that's just a super basic way to do to get this thing to generate notes. And again, it's just sending data. The device that's receiving the MIDI signals, this MIDI data, has to actually create a noise out of it. MIDI itself doesn't create noises. It needs a box or a computer or something to actually create those noises. But that's not what we're doing today. Okay, I got the pod powered on. Just plug an output in here, and okay. So right now, this is set up as pedal 1, which, as far as I can tell, just from my tinkering around here, affects whatever the main variable of any of these effects is. So right now I got it set to flanger. You can sort of hear it affecting it as I tweak that. Let's go to a tremolo maybe. You can hear as I adjust it, the tremolo speed changes. What else here? But that's not what I wanted. I mean, that's cool and all, and that's useful, but that's not the effect that I'm going for. So I am just going to go back into the software. And I am going to comment that out and make this into the wah pedal, because that's what I wanted it to be. And now, there's that wah effect. So that is the basic coolness that I want. Now I could put a bunch more potentiometers on there and control a bunch of different things. The volume, the reverb, any of these things that I wanted. Basically any of the knobs that are on here, and several that don't show up on top. I could also put foot switches on there to turn on and off of various things. But for now, that's not, that's way beyond where I want to go. So the next step involves a bunch of 3D printing. This, and the little gear inside there represents about a week of dicking around with printing and failed prints and stuff like that to create basically a pedal. So this piece has a little gear rack on it. There is attached to the potentiometer, which I'm not going to take back out because it's glued in there. Attached to the potentiometer is a little gear that rack will run on. And yes, that's rough. I had to print it that way up with supports, and they didn't come off very well. Anyways, I'll jam this pivot in here. It should probably be something a little bit more substantial than just a skewer, but so there you can see that rack controls the potentiometer. But you can also hear, I think, that the gears are slipping. But when I hold that in there, it rotates it. So another problem with this model. Now this model is just one that I found online, and it looked like it would do it. And after, like I said, about a week dicking around with printing it, including this part was about a 10-hour print, this part was about a 6-hour print, and I had to cut this into 2 pieces. This piece down here was about 2.5 more hours, and then glue it together and stuff. I had to cut it because it won't fit on my ender because size. Anyways, that all aside, then I find out that this thing slips on here because this isn't just well enough supported, which sucks because this looks like a legitimate thing, and it'll actually hold me stepping on it too, but that's kind of useless. And the other problem that I found with this, even when it is meshing properly, that rack and pinion only rotates the pot about 90 or 100 degrees, and you don't get the full range of noises with only that. Not sure whether you could tell when I was cranking this pot, but I was going through the full 300 and whatever degrees of rotation that it does. So right now I'm at a bit of a standstill. I'm not sure if I'm going to find another 3D printing project and spend another week printing stuff. There is one other one that looks kind of interesting, but I'm not sure yet. The other option, I suppose I could build something mechanically, just with wood and bits of metal and whatnot, and then print out a GT2 timing belt pulley like this one, only with a smaller shaft so it'll fit on a potentiometer, and do some kind of weirdness with that. I'm not sure yet. Has anyone else gone down this road? What would you suggest? Part of me is leaning towards the other 3D printed solution. Part of me wants to go with more of a hardware solution. Part of me wants to spend the summer scouring yard sales and thrift stores to try and find just a used cheap volume pedal, which is essentially mechanically the same thing as this, only, not as cheesy, and has a potentiometer in there and that. I don't know. Mechanical design isn't my strong suit. What do you think? Do you guys have any other ideas? Have you seen variants on this theme that would be cool? Especially the mechanical bit, I guess. The electronic bit's easy. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your suggestions down below. I'll talk to you later. Oh, in case anybody's wondering, this is Bear in a Barrel Maple Nut Brown Ale from Handsome Lad Brewing in Winnipeg. New brewery. Pretty nice.